Welcome to Centre Court with thanks to CRT. Equine supplies start with CRT. And want a chance to win a Tooza 2-horse straight load horse float? Visit crt.com.au/equine 2024. T&Cs apply. I'm Bianca Chatfield, and alongside me for another episode of Centre Court is Shae Brown. Thanks for joining me, Shae.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
There's lots of netball going on, and all in different ways in different states, very different to what we see in Super Netball. So let's get straight into the netball wrap so we can talk to you about what has been happening around the grounds on the netball court. And we're going to start with the First Nations tournament. Now, this has only just been completed. It's been run and won by Queensland, coached by Sharon Finnan-White. This is the team celebrating their victory. This is an under-23 tournament of all states and territories got to enter a First Nations side. And it took place in Melbourne at the State Netball and Hockey Centre. And Queensland came away a 2-goal win over South Australia in the end. And it's really emerging some absolute superstars that we potentially will see in the game. The tournament MVP, the grand final MVP was Jaden Molo. She is also a black swan. So you see her playing in the Pacific Series just recently as well. Let's take a look at the team of the tournament. Some of the names. Now, you might not have seen them just yet enter Super Netball, but there are some players there who are hanging around in the Super Netball reserves ready to take that next opportunity. One of those players is Lily Cubby, who plays for Queensland, also been a part of the Firebirds Super Netball reserve. So she is one to watch. She's certainly been very dominant at the First Nations tournament. And look at that too, Shae. The team of the tournament, 4 Queenslanders, 2 South Aussies, and only 1 New South Wales player. They're absolutely dominating from Queensland.
Absolutely. And so I think it's always remained true that, when you win off court as well and get those accolades. So it's good to see they've been recognised. And it's just such a fantastic tournament, and great to see that our pathways are developing in those really diverse ways. And it's great just to see that what we can do. And I can't wait to be able to see some of these amazing players in the green and gold in the not too distant future.
We have a big shout out to Sharon Finnan-White, obviously a former Diamond, but she's done a lot of work in the space to make sure our First Nations players have a place to develop their game, have a place to be able to grow their game and feel safe in that place, and then to be able to coach the team to victory. I'm sure it's something she is very, very proud of, especially as this is a pilot program. And we've seen this year Super Netball reserves that followed around for about 6 weeks of the Super Netball season. That was a pilot program that Netball Australia put forward, and from all reports that was a really positive start for Super Netball to have that follow around and play before and after the Super Netball games. Now we've had this as a pilot program as well. It is exciting, isn't it, to see what Netball Australia are doing in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's so important for us to be able to bridge those gaps. And you can see that there is a little bit of a gap at the moment between what's at SSN level. We've got a lot of international players, but when you're if there's an injury or something that happens in which we've experienced, and you're asking, a VNL player to come and step in off a VNL court at SSN level, there's clearly a big gap. And I think being as creative as possible in how we fill that gap and bridge it is really a credit to Netball Australia and what they're doing at the moment.
Well, it is exciting to see, and hopefully not just pilot programs, and they will continue on forevermore. Now, there's something big coming up in international netball, and of course that is the Diamonds up against the English Roses, and that all gets underway this week. It starts off in Adelaide on Thursday night, then goes to Sydney on Sunday, and then to Bendigo on Wednesday. A regional game. I think that's so important to be able to take it to the fans regionally on school holidays here in Victoria. But the first one starts in Adelaide. I'm really excited to see, because for me, the Diamonds we don't know the teams as yet. They're yet to be released. So we've filmed this. We're yet to know the teams, but possibly in the next 24 hours they will be released. And really, it's hard to know which way Stacey Marinkovich will go. And stay tuned, because we've got Stacey Marinkovich coming up very shortly. But it's hard to know, isn't it, what way they're going to go, because they've got so many options for the Diamonds.
It is I'll look at the list and I'll get little tingles, because I think, being able to see all these all these girls just perform so amazingly throughout the year, and then to put them all and squish them all into a team, I think is going to be a pretty hard task for Stacey.
And if we look at the past performances of the Roses and the Diamonds, they've had many epic clashes, and I think any Diamonds supporter goes straight back to that 2018 Commonwealth Games where the Roses won in that final, got the gold medal, and that certainly changed things in international netball. And I think the respect that England have got from that moment, you can never, ever look past what they're going to put out there on the court. We've seen it continue to dominate at the World Cup when they made the final. They are really knocking on the door, and they've had a lot more training as a team together this series. Before they were in Perth for a big chunk of the time this month before they even hit the court, whereas the Diamonds haven't had as much lead-up time. Do you think that's going to be an advantage for the English Roses?
Look, this game is just wild. Like, you never know. Like, you could spin it both ways, being like, oh, they've had too much time together and they're bored. Like, and I think whatever the result is, we'll probably spin that narrative. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I'm excited to see, particularly Eleanor Cardwell and how she fits into the side, coming off the back of her season with the Mavericks and combining again with Housby. Like, there's so much to look forward to seeing. So I'll be there in Bendigo and very keen to see it all play out.
And for England too, Beth Cobden's back in the side. She's obviously been plagued with injury, so it's so great to see her and what she's going to be able to do when she goes out there on court, possibly standing next to Fumi Fedoju as well, who's such an exciting talent, to see what she can do to the Diamonds. And I don't think something that's been spoken about enough is the fact that former Diamonds captain Shani Norda, or Shani Layton as you may know her, is the specialist defensive coach for the English Roses. So she has been with the team in Perth, she's been working with their defenders, so Fran Williams obviously is a part of that defensive end as well. I'm so intrigued to see what impact she can have with the Roses defenders and whether we're going to be able to see maybe a more of Australian way of playing, maybe something different. But Shani certainly knows how to take on an Australian shooting end, that's for sure.
Absolutely, that's a match made in heaven. I think the confidence of Shan's and the aura of England netball and that sort of like confidence that they have, I think is like kind of a little bit of a match made in heaven. So I can imagine the dinner tables would be very, very fun. But yeah, absolutely, I think Shan's will be. I'm really keen to see what what they put together.
Yes, and when we talk about the Aussie Diamonds, Georgie Horgis brings up a really interesting, I think, part of the selection for Georgie Horgis. Obviously, the first game is in Adelaide, so it's such a fairy tale if Horgis can be in the 12 for this first team and for the first test, to then get an opportunity to potentially debut in front of her home crowd. That would be amazing, right? But we all know fairy tales in sport, they're not always written like that, and it's not always that easy. Do you think the Diamonds are going to go with an untested side for their first test match, or a few newbies in the side, or do you think they're going to try and stick with players that have been there and played at that level before?
All I do know is that whatever they go with, Stacey would have thought about every single scenario, and it will be very, very calculated in that. And I think, Georgie Horgis is my, she's my girl crush. I think she is absolutely amazing to watch, and it would be great to see her have that sort of fairy tale ending. And I think, she's done enough this year to be able to get that opportunity. So hopefully that all plays out. But I think, we were discussing how there is the ability to swing across multiple positions in multiple parts of the court is an absolute strength, and but also makes selection really interesting.
Yes.
So love to see where she fits, if she fits.
Shooter, mid-quarter. I mean, to have that versatility, it's an absolute dream, isn't it? Let alone all the talented players that are in that Diamond squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we can't wait. And the first one, obviously, coming up on Thursday night. It's time now for our Centre Court Deep Dive. Today, we are joined by Diamonds coach Stacey Marinkovich, getting ready for the big test happening against the English Roses starting on Thursday. Stace, firstly, thanks for joining us, and how's all the prep been so far?
Yeah, well, we've just come off the training court, so it's been our last main session before actually hitting the Roses. So just getting that clarity, getting that final bit of intensity and loading into the girls, and ready to unleash them, I guess, in the next game.
Just talking offline a little bit about defence bringing it today was one of my faves. Starts with A, ends in me Parmenter. How is she tracking?
Yeah, to be honest, the whole mid-court's been extremely competitive. They really do train hard against each other, but then they've got the most amount of support for one another. So they're really adapting and shifting what they're able to do. And Amy's come in off the back of a good season, as has all these players, I guess. They all bring their skill sets, and when you've got the best working together, there's some pretty nice stuff evolving.
Now, we're eagerly awaiting to hear what the 12 is for the first test. I know you're probably not going to give me any insights right now, and that's okay. But what I do want to know is, what's been your mindset into picking the 12 for this first test? Do you look at certain things? Are you trying to piece together the whole jigsaw puzzle of the international season and what might work in different matches and against different, countries? Or how do you make it work and pick the side?
Yeah, I think at this time in the cycle, it's really getting a focus on us and seeing what that can deliver against what the other opposition are doing. England don't have their side's not too different to what they've had in previous encounters with us. So they've got a fair bit of experience across their line, as do we. And I think for us, we've brought in some new players. We've got Georgie Horgis out there. Tilly hasn't played England before. So I think there's a part where we've got to get the connection from within before we start looking what does that look like against others. And, some of these players have only been in one camp, so they've, effectively only had a couple, sessions of match play. So there's a part where we want to make sure that when players step out onto the court, they're ready to thrive. But I've been really pleased with the transition, and we've seen why players have been selected and have been able to bring those skill sets from the SSN.
Unreal. And so what are you most excited about? I mean, you've talked about that there's a bunch of young players coming through and doing some awesome things. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think first of all, just saying that I don't think we've hit our absolute with the squad that we had before, and obviously the transition of players coming in. So I think there's a part where we're trying to understand where we're currently at. I think, the way in which we play against each other, it's pretty ferocious, but there also is a lot of familiarity. And as everyone understands, the international environment is a different environment in that the opposition plays slightly differently. The umpiring is a little bit different. So for us, it's been able to step out there, make sure that we can have our brand of play present and dominant, and that you can see that our setups functioning. And I really want us to be able to see that, the skill sets that the individual bring really just has strength in connection with the others around them.
And we obviously found out a couple of weeks ago that Shae Norda, the former Aussie Diamonds captain and brilliant defender that she is, has jumped ship and with the Roses as a specialist defensive coach. What did you make of when you found that out? What were your first thoughts? And what do you think she's going to be doing in terms of training that defensive end?
Yeah, to be honest, I think there's a lot of Australian coaches been, getting opportunities in other countries. You've got Bryony in New Zealand, obviously Shani now in England. And I think it just goes to show that there's, huge knowledge and huge, things that these coaches can contribute to the game. So, we know Shani is loud. She's got a huge amount of energy, but she also has, that understanding of the one-on-one defence and, just that tenacity to the ball. So we saw her in the corridor as we came into the court. She certainly hasn't gone quieter. She's certainly loud and proud. And, I'm pretty sure that our players will hear her from the sideline at some point. But, that's the thing. It's international netball, and you want to make sure that you can evolve and challenge your team. And I'm not surprised that Australian coaches are being picked up.
You are back with Melbourne Mavericks assistant coach Nicole Richardson, and she's developed quite the relationship with Tracy Neville. How have you guys found your feet now that she's been a bit Nevilled?
As long as she calls me Stacey and not Tracy, we're okay. To be honest, we've had some great conversations even with Tracy throughout the season, obviously interacting in that Suncorp Super Netball arena. And, Richo brings a huge amount of knowledge, experience. We bounce off each other really, really well. So I keep teasing the fact to Tracy that I'm number one coach. She's got to sit back, and then she can have Richo in a few months' time.
I'm sure she took that really well.
We have some good banter, and Richo's like this little kid being pulled from either parent.
And just finally, we're talking about some opportunities, shiny opportunity for coaches, but in terms of opportunity for players, we know it's a young defensive line in a way with Rudy Ellis, Matilda Garrett obviously has had some experience as well, but also the likes of Ash Irvin coming into the squad. What do you do with those players to try and get them up to speed of the intensity of what international netball might bring if they do take the court?
Yeah, I think the one thing that they've really found, as soon as you step into a Diamonds environment, you hit intensity. You can't get Australia's best players together and it drop. It certainly steps up. So them just being in the environment has been a learning curve in itself. And, obviously we do lose some experience in this series without Joe and Courtney, but it gives people opportunity to step up. And as I said, they've got skill sets, and we've got to make sure that we can make them really present out on court. So we don't overcomplicate. It will be simplistic in the way that they play, but hopefully we can see some really good connection. And really, it's about defence is got to build the trust. You've got to stick to the structure and understand that you're going to be backed up. And international netball, it's bloody hard for defenders to get balls, so it's really going to require the full team to support. And those girls having the freedom to trust in their skill set and have a contest and go for a fly.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Never a truer word spoken how tough it is defensively. I'm happy to back that up. However, when players, like we've been so privileged with the likes of Clow and Bruce and Weston and how Ariang fly for the ball and the balls that they do turn over. It's actually incredible to the athletes that they are. Thank you so much for joining us, Stacey. We cannot wait to see firstly who's in the 12, then who takes the court and what happens over in Adelaide for that first test match. All the best for the game.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
And that was another episode of Centre Court. All thank you to CRT Equine Supplies. Start with CRT. And if you want a chance to win a Tooza 2-horse straight load horse float, visit crt.com.au/equine 2024. T's and C's apply. Well, Centre Court will be back next week, and of course we'll talk about all the tests that have happened. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to you, Shae, for your last 3 weeks. It's been great having you on board, and we'll see you again next week.